Hello, everybody. So tonight starts Module 7. So we're very rapidly approaching the end. And actually, the main thing for tonight is kind of the last item on our list of things to learn. And it's only 2 pages long in the notes. You probably can't see those very well. 2 pages with lots of white space still on the paper. So it's something that'll go very quickly as we talk about that. And then that still leaves us next Monday, next Wednesday, and the following Monday for class time, even though we've gone through the whole list. So I want to make sure I have a couple of odds and ends that I always like to talk about, make sure those get mentioned somewhere. Because again, this is an introduction class. Really at the intro level, we're looking for exposure so that you know about it. Those who are continuing more further along into software development, the parts that pertain to you, you'll hear more and more. So for the programming stuff, where we've been practicing our algorithm developing skills in this course, programmers are going to get lots of practice with those in further classes. For people heading on other pathways, maybe network administrators or security, cybersecurity people, the parts that pertain to your specialty, you will hear about more and more. And hopefully from the stuff we've covered in this class, when somebody mentions things that you haven't seen in a while because it's not necessarily part of your specialty, you'll at least have that slight familiarity of what they're talking about. That's kind of what we look at in introduction level courses. So like I was saying, after this 2-page set of notes here, have some odds and ends, and then maybe some things to go back over that might not be clear. I've already talked to a couple people about going back over loops a little bit more.
Yes.
Easy to use loops without all that complicated recursion part, because again, that was just introduction, awareness of it, sort of, is what we were looking for there, and it probably cluttered up the loop thing. So that's on there. A couple of odds and ends. So if there's anything you want me to go back over, just let me know, and I will put together some plans for going back over that. And
we do the array problems, the ones that, not the Raptor one, the ones that were part of the Cengage Mind Tap.
okay,
You know what I'm talking about? You know what I'm talking about? Those
The ones that are like the built-in sandbox things.
Yeah, because I could only get like 44% like on that thing. I don't know what I was doing wrong, but it just would not come out. And
I had issues with that also. Did you keep getting a syntax error for some of them?
I worked my way through most of it. I was able to get the thing to actually work. It just wouldn't like give me the full score. I guess it had something to do with what I was printing, but I thought everything was verbatim, so I don't know what was going on. Maybe I wouldn't mind if you opened up my assignment, looked at it, and just picked it apart if you want to do that.
I have to dig through a bunch of stuff. Is that what your question was as well, Larissa, on those same assignments?
Yes. Well, Jacob, is it the ones that were due like today, those 2?
Yeah, it would have been
Yeah,
due today,
that was the exact same. I couldn't work through them, and I would get I got one of them to print, and I would also only get like a 23%, and then the other ones I couldn't get to print at all, and I just kept getting an invalid syntax every single time I went to go do it.
Okay, let's go ahead and look at that before we move on to a new topic, because hopefully that's fresh on everybody's mind. And yeah, the plan for the night wasn't going to take long.
I think I know what she's talking about, though. It took me a while to figure out. You can't use just one equal sign. You actually have to make it, you have to use 2. It was, what's that word? What's it called? It's an absolute value. Or what's it called when you use 2 equal signs?
That's generally equality.
Yeah, like it has to be complete equality, not just the same value, but it has to be like it. I can't remember the term used.
Yeah, Raptor lets us use 1 equal sign, which you may have noticed. I tried to avoid doing that in even in Raptor in the examples. usually one equal sign is our assignment operator. That's how we set a value, put stuff into RAM or pull stuff out of RAM with assignments. And two equal signs is equality.
Right, and that's what I had to realize, because when you're iterating through an array, if you want it to equal something in the array, you have to use two of them. It has to be equality, because if you use just the assignment, then it won't work and it just pulls up everything.
Yeah.
Or at least
There's also three equal signs for strict equality, but that's definitely not something that showed up here. So chat room. Okay, so yeah, I see a third person in chat room having a similar issue. So yeah, let's start by looking at those. And on my way through, there was one more point about the finishing up thing that I'll just kind of click there on the way through. I mentioned it at the beginning of the semester, so I just wanted to send a quick reminder about this before we look at that Python assignment. Is on the syllabus, and not just this syllabus, the syllabus for all of your classes. There's going to be a section there called cores, the course outline of record. And this has a list, has description stuff, but it has this major learning objectives list. So the list of things that you're supposed to learn from the course. So near the end of the semester in all of your classes, you might want to make sure you look back at that list and feel like you're learning what you're supposed to be learning. But sometimes it's hard to interpret those lists. They mentioned matrices on here, and that they said that instead of tables and some odd things, but we've covered just about everything on there. The only thing left on that list for us to cover is files, right? Reading and writing files. But before we do that, let's look at this array stuff. I just wanted to send that reminder, that not just for this course, but in all of your courses, as you get near the end, make sure you go back to the syllabus and look at those major course learning objectives. Make sure you feel confident that you're learning all the stuff you're supposed to be learning, because in later classes that the current class might be a prerequisite for, you'll go in there and they'll expect you to know the things on that list. Is this module 6, Jacob or Larissa? One of these?
Yes, it is. I think it's the parallel. Sorry, I can't say that word for some reason. Array in Python.
Okay, parallel arrays. So that's where we have multiple arrays or lists, and we line things up. Right? They're not a 2D array. We didn't completely combine them. They're still two separate arrays, but maybe we have a person named Bob that we're storing some data about, and a person named Sally. So in all the different arrays that we have, everything about Bob is at index number 1. And then maybe everything about Sally is in index number 6. And that way everything lines up between the two of them. Oh, there was an announcement too while this opens. I almost forgot about it. So there's course evaluations at the end of every class where you have to go in and take one of those surveys. I've never seen the results of them. I don't know where it goes, but it goes up to central office and maybe some side company. I guess it's a side company because that's what the announcement's about. There was an email come out this morning that whoever the third party company that runs those survey things, that they distribute them and tally the results and everything. That way it stays anonymous. There's something wrong with their servers, or something's wrong on their end. And from the email that came out, it sounded like it might not be fixed anytime soon. They said if it's not fixed by like next Tuesday, I think was the date they gave on it, like next Tuesday or Wednesday, they're just going to mail out, do something in the email send some sort of course evaluation through the email. Some courses it worked, some courses went through, but if you go click that course evaluation link to fill out the survey and it doesn't work, either next Tuesday or Wednesday, if the problem's not fixed by then, they're gonna just do something in the email. Check by that on the list. Almost forgot about that, but actually, I guess waiting on pages to load is a good time to cover announcements.
I think you need to upgrade that internet package.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It might be this computer too. It's been time to replace. It's coming on time to replace a computer, but
Do you have
with Windows 11 coming out, I thought I'd just wait for them.
do you
I have
have
a Chromebook and a MacBook and other things I can use.
do you have QoS enabled on your router? Do you have that set up? The quality of service, I think is what it is. You go into your router settings and then you can prioritize certain data transfers. Like say you're doing like these live classes, you can go in there and you can prioritize that. Yeah, I would check it out. Usually people use it for like gaming and stuff so that they don't have a lag in gaming, but you can maybe even do it for the live sessions.
I could give it a try. I think it's actually here at the final last end where Chrome and Zoom conflict with each other.
Ah, okay.
But there's different things that could try. I keep meaning to try grabbing one of my other laptops and sharing from a different screen, but I don't know if that would really make much difference. Like if I wasn't the host, I might be able to change some settings on Zoom.
That's true.
Okay, so I'm going to reset this because I think I did some stuff here. Which, yeah, is going to take a while to load again. Hopefully not too long. So what are we doing here? Parallel list, complete partial. Yeah. Now that we're getting near the end of the semester, I don't think I'm a huge fan of this. I don't like the partially completed programming assignments. I'd much rather, I think it'd be a lot better off to do from scratch. It's also going to affect my plans for SDEV 140 because something I've made a big deal out of in the past. These sort of computer programs have requirements on how to name variables. So I can't cover all like the naming conventions and things like that. Okay, so where are we? The program should print the name and price of coffee add-in from Jump and Drive Cargo. Or we don't carry that. So it looks like it just needs to print the user asked for one. Cream, cinnamon, chocolate, amaretto, or whiskey. And then the prices. And then that's the parallel part. So this add-in list here and the prices for them. So like the cream, the first item in that list corresponds to the first price in this list. And the second item corresponds to the second price and so on. So they're two separate arrays. They're not tied together like a two-dimensional array to create a table. They're just lined up. What else do we need to do? So this is completely, we don't have to do that in Python. We don't have to declare variables in Python. I've noticed they did that. I wanted to make sure and express that explicitly one more time before the semester ends, at least, that Python, whenever you have a variable, you can just start using it. Declaring it actually affects some of the more powerful things that would come much later. So we have 5 items, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, looks like that lines up. We assume that we can't find it. So we always have to make an assumption. We don't know what the user is going to ask for yet, but we need a starting point. So our assumption is that we can't find what the user is going to ask for. And then we'll, if we find it, we'll be surprised and turn that around. And so I guess $2 is the basic cup of coffee. Get a cup of coffee for $2, and then you can add stuff in for different prices. That seems to be what's going on here. So what are the instructions? Study the pre-written code. Oh, well, I kind of did that anyway, so hopefully y'all took that as a note that anytime you have a starting point, you want to look through it and try to make sense of what it is. Not just read the lines, but kind of like I was doing there. Make sure you understanding what these numbers mean. There's like 5 things. That looks like the number of stuff in a list. They line up here. Order total is just a variable name, but thinking through what this is going to be, it makes more sense just to keep in mind that $2 is the base price for a cup of coffee. Starts at $2 and then we just build from there. So I'm gonna add some white space because I don't like typing at the bottom of a screen. So now that this stuff's at the top, write the rest of the program here. So we need to search the list for the name of the add-in ordered by the customer. So first off, we have to figure out which add-in they give us. So we'll loop through all of these, which looks, we already have that list. There's 5 things, and Python starts at index 0, so that's going to be index 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4 for each one. So I'm going to do a while loop. I was using a for loop the other day. I'm going to use a while loop and just make a counter myself. So I'm going to start a counter at 0, and then while count, whoops, that's not how I spelled that. While counter is less than 5, we'll loop through here and see what thing the customer ordered, which means we need to make a decision, right? We need a selection structure to see if this thing stored in the add-in variable matches anything in the add-ins list. Logically, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So we need to make a decision. So if add-in our list and the counter is what we're going to look at one at a time.
Can I ask you a question? How do you choose what type of loop to use?
Often it doesn't matter. The only time it will matter is the difference between a pretest and a post-test. Because remember, a pretest loop may never run, so you have to make sure the code runs at least one time. Like there's some setup and stuff in there, or something that has to run. You'll want to make sure you can do a post-test loop. Otherwise, it doesn't really matter. I was using a while loop because the other day I used for loops, and every time our class ends, I pour a cup of coffee and sit there and think about everything that went in class and what could go better. And I was thinking afterwards that using for loops might have been a little bit confusing, because the while loop, where we actually increment a count, set up a counter, loop through it, and then manually increment that at the end, matches what we're doing in Raptor as well. So I was thinking, this time I chose it because I was thinking this would match what we did in Raptor, which seemed to make a little bit more sense.
Yeah,
But
maybe I was trying to use a for loop and it was tough. I was having a hard time. I was getting there, but it was a lot more complicated trying to use a for loop.
Okay, I think we have
like
time. So let's stretch this out, because loops was one of, well, it was supposed to go after this lecture, but loops was one of the things that we're having trouble with. So I'll do it both ways. And after this, we'll do the for loop and then kind of compare them. But usually it doesn't matter. They're typically interchangeable.
I wasn't necessarily saying that the for loops are confusing. I was saying that using them in conjunction with the arrays and then the parallel arrays, like using it all together is where it started to get me. And but it's okay. I prefer to I'll just watch. I'll stop talking.
Oh, if you have questions, speak up. But
No.
yeah, that was already running through my mind anyway. So maybe go ahead and do both types of loops to see the difference.
Yeah, if it
So
doesn't take too much time, I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
yeah,
So I
this
have a-
matches
I have a
what we're doing
question.
in Raptor. Yes.
I went to go pull this up to work through it with you. So like we could do it kind of like at the same time. And when I open my sandbox, it says please create or open a file. Like
Try hitting the reset button.
okay, I've done that.
Is it still not working?
Yeah.
Maybe if you just open a text editor and store that in like Notepad, then afterwards you can copy and paste it over. Because if it can't find the file, that kind of sounds like it's just a problem on their end.
Okay, thank you.
Here you go, Larissa. Whoops. Keyboard shortcuts change. There's the starting point in the chat room. If you want to copy that into a regular text file to follow along. All of that was there to begin with. Did that go to you? Yes, to everyone. Or yeah, so anybody that wants to follow along, if you want to, that was the starting point. If you want to put that in a text editor. So I'll use a while loop this time. We have different words. Index is how we normally refer to arrays, but as this was coming together, the word counter popped in my mind first. So that's kind of what it is. We're going to count through each index of the array. So if the one we're looking at, we'll start at 0. So if element 0, which is cream, is equal to, so that's where we need the 2 equal signs. So if whatever that index is exactly equal to whatever the user gave us, add in, and just a general note, rule of thumb, when you're naming things, you might want to avoid that because there's a collection called add ins and another variable called add in. It seems like there's an easy place for a typo to happen there. Because the one with the S has had the square brackets and an index, and the other one is just a variable. So that's how we make the comparison. If whatever's in that element of the array is equal to what the user gave us. So element 0, then we'll go around the loop in element 1, 2, 3, 4. And when we get to 5, well, 5 is not less than 5, 5 is equal to 5, so then we'll be done looping. So if they're equal, well, then we need to get the price. And that's where the parallel part comes in. Because we know, like, maybe they entered chocolate. So we're going to loop through 0. Nope, that's not equal. 1, nope. 2, oh, chocolate is equal to chocolate. So we need to grab that index so that we can find the price of chocolate in our other array. So I'm going to make another variable here called I'll call it target. I can't think of anything else off my mind. I'm going to start it at something that cannot possibly be an index. So it's kind of like a sentinel value there, right? We don't have negative indexes. In Python, we can do negative indexes, so you want to be careful with that. But instead of a positive number to indicate which element of the array we're in, I'm going to start that as a negative value. That'll also give me something to check. Because if we get all the way through this loop, if we find it, then what we want to do is set target equal to whatever we're wanting. So on that one, we need the assignment. I guess it kind of shows both of those at the same point, like you were mentioning earlier, Jacob.
I'm just
So-
confused because I would have thought that the counter shouldn't it be the input, right? It should be add-in, right? It should, I would think that it'd be equal to the add-in, which would be the input that the user puts in, right?
Mhm.
What's
So target is just to grab that in, the index when we find it. So we have this loop here. So we're going to keep going. We're going to go through this loop 5 times. Right? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we're done with it. So we're going to go through the loop 5 times, no matter what. So after we go all the way through the loop, our counter will always be up to 5.
okay? So we're just iterating through the loop right now. We're not selecting anything or printing anything. That's I guess that.
Yeah, yeah. So not
Alright,
printing
'cause
anything.
maybe
Yet.
my mind is jumping ahead a little bit. Okay. Good.
Yes, you might be jumping ahead a little bit because eventually we're going to print it.
Yeah,
Right now, I just kind of wanted to get a number that corresponded with what the user gave us.
Okay.
'Cause, you can think about it as words are hard to deal with, right? They gave us one of these big words, and instead of checking it every time, I'm going to turn that into a number. So then I can just make a simple comparison with the numbers.
Okay. Yeah, we're just turning it into a number now. I get it now. Okay.
And if we don't find it, well, then we can just keep going, right? So we'll go ahead and finish out the loop. Then I'll undo the indenting, but we need a way to check whether or not we found it. So that's why I said that target. I couldn't really think of a good name for it. Maybe index would have been good there. I'll just stick with what's there instead of changing it now. But that does happen a lot when I'm writing code, is variable names will change as the program progresses. And you have to be very careful doing that, because if it's written in too many places and you miss changing one of them, that can be a big problem. So if we get all the way through our loop and target is still a negative number, that means we didn't find it, right? So that's probably what you were thinking of, right, Jacob? We can check that afterwards. So if target is less than 0, that means we got all the way up to, the counter went all the way up to 5, and we never found what the user asked for, so it's not in there. So that's where we can print whatever they said to print. They'll probably count it wrong if we put the wrong words here, won't it? Oh, we can print, sorry, we do not carry that. So that gets us up to the first part of it, the checking to see if we have it. Does that make sense? Anybody have any questions about that?
Can target be true or false as well?
You could set that up as true or false values. There's different ways to do it. This is
Okay.
just what popped in my mind because we need to figure out if that is a valid order, we need to grab whatever index it is.
Mm-hmm.
So I was thinking if it just starts at something negative, I'll make it even more negative, right? Negative
Okay.
1,000 something. All of our indices for that array are positive, so that if we find it, we can just use that number. But if we don't find it, then we still have a negative number there. So that gives us a quick way to check if that's there. But you could also do it with a true false flag. Oh, that's this one, right?
Yeah, that's why I was asking, like, if you could just do a false instead of -1.
That's probably what they wanted. They probably wanted that in an if-else statement and say found it equal to false. So that if we don't get it, we'll say it's false every time. But if we do find it, we'll just switch that to true.
Yeah.
Actually, that's not going to work right there. Because if maybe we find it when counter is 3. then we set that to true, but we're still going to come around our loop and then counters 4, which would go in this else part and set it back to false. So I'm going to move this part down here. If target is less than 0, we do that, and then do that else of set found it. Oops. Found it equal to true. So instead of doing that here, because we're going to keep going around the loop and it could get reset afterwards, I'm just going to use this extra variable to check if it's there. And if it's not, we'll print out that message. And if it is, but if it is there, then change that variable. Which the plan I came up with quickly when I read this doesn't use a flag. So I don't think I'm even going to use that. I'd actually already forgot it was there. So Santa said something a second ago. But finishing this out just to see if it if we can get a better a good grade on this. So we couldn't. That takes care of if we can't find it. But if we did find it, we need to get the price. So
so I guess I
order total is going to increase, right? We're going to take whatever was in order total, which I should probably write out this way instead of a shortcut, plus one of our other prices. Something from this array. In particular, that target index from that array. Add in prices, the target index. And I came down here and printed this, just typed that line up to see it. If we find it, we need to do this. So that's not quite in the right place right now though, right? Because here it's going to do that whether we found it or not.
It should be like around line 26, maybe.
Good. I was going to put it right here.
Okay.
But yeah, line 26 would work as well. That might be what you were saying, relate to what you were saying earlier. I think Jacob said it might have been you, Santos. If we put it on line 26, then we could use counter and use counter right in that spot. So there's more than one way to do it. There's multiple options. We just have to kind of go through carefully. And I assume the last step is to print this out. Write the code that prints the name and price of the add-in or the error message. And then write the code that prints. Okay, so we need to print that first. So print add in whatever is there, which that one is a string. Everything in, whoops, I forgot that is. Everything in our add in was a string. So we'll be able to just print that out directly. Add in name and price of the add-in. I'm going to add some words in here, but I have a feeling the computer is going to count this wrong when I do this. Will be the price, which was the add in prices array, again, that target index. But that one's a number, so we have to cast it into a string. So there's what we do if we do find it. And like Santos pointed out, we could just do all of this stuff right here. And then if we don't ever find it, if we get all the way to the end of the loop without finding it, then we'd print this stuff. And then finally, we need the order total. No matter what, we'll have some sort of order total. It was $2 if there's no add-ins or anything. So I'll come after that if else structure and print that. The total is plus order total cast into a string. So that's my thoughts on the logic. I'm not a huge fan of automatically graded stuff because there's so many ways to do it. Since they had this variable, it's probably like what Santos pointed out. They probably intended for these things to happen right here and then change that variable so that if the variable's not accurate, we can check it there. Where's my run button? There it is. What were our options? Oh, I said check with this stuff. Green. Did it print anything? Oh,
Welcome to our world.
yeah, why is that not running? Yeah, I'm not a big fan of these things. It should be crashing or doing something.
I went to run it and I got an error of indentation.
There we go. Counter keyboard interrupt. Oh, I see what happened. Does anybody see what went wrong? It looked like nothing was happening, right? It did get to line 25. I hit Control C to crash the program. That works in most of our terminals. Control C will crash the program. So it was on line 25 when I crashed it.
You mean that
let's see.
the loop isn't ending?
Yeah, it looks like the loop's running forever.
Yeah.
Counter
Can you do,
equals counter plus one.
Does break work? Can't you just use like does that command work, right? I tried to use that sometimes.
It can if we find that, if we enter that, if we meet that condition.
Okay.
But if we don't meet the condition, then it would still just run forever.
I see. Yeah, you're right. You are right.
Usually I do this first. I think we've been doing that in Raptor. I point out every time, set up your index, set up the condition, then do the counter, and then come back and do this stuff. But I was talking and forgot to do that first. Let's try this again. So if we run, and I did not follow their menu thing. If we put in cream will be 89 cents. The total is 289. And because of this, it's menu driven. I didn't look closely at that prompt. So we only want to do this if the user doesn't type quit, right? So before we do any of this stuff, we need to see if the user gave us the word quit. Which means all of this needs indented.
I think it's triple X instead of quit.
Huh.
Yeah, it's triple X to quit. Yeah, you gotta type 3 X's. Yeah.
Or triple X to quit. Okay. And none of the standards work. Okay, so just so you'll know, in 90% of your text editors in Python, Alt3 will comment stuff, but that doesn't work here. Sometimes Control square bracket will handle all the indenting. That doesn't work here. In most text editors, you can highlight a bunch of stuff and hit tab and that'll indent it. But none of the standard shortcuts seem to be working here. And all of this stuff only happens if the user then has to quit. So I guess for this one, I'm just gonna have to come through every single line and indent it over once. And this is that thing you mentioned there, Larissa, that the indenting errors, I think that was Larissa that mentioned it, white space matters in Python. Oh, whoops. That one doesn't need tabbed over. This one needs tabbed over. So you do have to watch where things are indented or unindented at. It seems really nice at first, but a problem that you probably encountered, if that was on your mind to point out, is that was to take the place of the curly braces and semicolons, and looking for a missing or extra curly brace, like a missing curly brace or an extra semicolon somewhere, is so much easier than looking for the missing white space. When you have to dig through a Python code looking for the missing white space, that can be a little aggravating. So now let's see if this runs like it's supposed to. So if we hit XXX, wait, why didn't that leave? If add in is equal to this, it should skip over everything.
It's still printing the total there. I guess it's outside of it.
Whoops. Yeah, I just realized what I did, because if I try cream now, that wasn't supposed to be equals. What should that be? Because cream quits. So if this is true, then we do all this stuff. So should our condition be equality here?
Yeah, the exclamation mark down, pointing down.
Yeah,
That's
we
what
probably want. If we don't want to quit, then we do that stuff. And that's how programming goes. Y'all have probably seen that a few times by now, right? We type up what we think is going to work, look at what happens, and then try to adjust it, make adjustments until it works correctly. So if we check these, cream works. What were some other ones?
Whiskey.
Whiskey sounds terrible in coffee. That sounds like something that would just hurt your throat. But I don't know. Vanilla? I don't think that was in there. And do not carry vanilla, so the total is $2. So it kind of looks like it's working. Let's check it. Seven out of 9. Oh, so I think we are supposed to print out that other stuff no matter what. So it was looking for the result of sorry, we do not carry that if somebody entered XXX. What is this?
So then you also have to just print the add-in, right? The input.
Yeah, so it was expecting cream price. Oh, and then here, I had a feeling that output was going to go bad. It wanted to say cream price is 89 cents. So we do have to kind of watch that stuff carefully. So where was that sentence? Oh, here. Cream is has this book gone over formatting? I didn't think this book covered numerical formatting. But let's see if that works. Run checks.
I think you have to change the total is on line 36 to price is.
Same price is 80. Oh, order total is.
Yeah, that one.
Thank you. Yeah, so you can and notice that what it's looking for is here. So sometimes we can look over and see if what it's looking for is there. So this stuff, I think, is supposed to happen no matter what. So like XXX isn't quiz, XXX is no add-ins. So that all of this stuff is supposed to still happen. So I'm gonna unindent this and see if it likes that better. And the spacing got off. I can tell it happened. So I'm just gonna run this, and this is probably that error you were talking about, Larissa. So the indentation error. So something got off. When I was hitting the delete key, I realized what it was. Is I used the tab key to move over a bunch all at once. And apparently whenever I'd, like here at the end of this if statement, if we hit enter, the way it's automatically indented, that was 4 spaces, not a tab. And we can use either one, but we can't use them interchangeably. So whenever that happens in Python, what I usually do is let the computer handle the indenting itself. So I'll take that line and hit backspace all the way up to the previous line and hit enter, and let the computer figure out where it was supposed to be. So then on the next one, again, I'll put my cursor at the right before the text, then hold down shift and hit home to highlight everything, and hit backspace till it goes back to the previous line, and then hit enter. And that way the indenting gets back to where it should be. Because yeah, that error message means there's a problem with missing or extra white space, which is really, really hard to look for. So it's best just to erase it and let the computer and redo it. And then the else block needs to unindent. So once again, I'll hit home, because home will toggle between the, if I keep hitting home, you'll see it toggles back and forth between those 2 spots. So when it's by the text, hold shift to highlight all that, and then erase it and hit enter to let the computer deal with the stuff. So hit home to get the cursor at the beginning, Shift and home to toggle back over all that white space, and then backspace to clear that out. Same thing here. Get rid of the wrong indent and then redo that. Is this the run checks? Oh, nope, same ones. Let's see what happened. For invalid flavors.
I've fiddled with mine and gotten to where I can input like an add-in flavor, and then no matter what I put, it just prints, sorry, we do not have that, about 100 times.
Huh. Let me see if this actually runs. So this is the one that said was bad. Does the correct one run? Yeah, cream works. So then caramel. Order total is yeah, so now it's just going back and forth for what the computer wants. This is part of the reason I don't like these grading programs. Yeah, so this one only needs to happen if we actually find the thing. Let's run that and see what that does. So if we do cream, 89 cents, order is 289. So a good one worked. And if we do the caramel, got just the word, sorry, we do not carry that. Let's try that again. Nope, same score, isn't it?
I couldn't figure out mine either. I got, I think, 83%, and it had the same thing, the invalid flavors and the valid flavors. I could not figure out.
Okay. So the blue there is what it is getting. And the red ones are the ones that says it's wrong. Does anybody see a difference between those two boxes and those two boxes?
Does it want you to print, sorry, we do not carry that 3 times?
That's for each of the inputs. So the first one is for if it inputs a lowercase chocolate. The second one is for vanilla. And the third one is for XXX.
I think it wants you to print out the also print out the name of the add-in that you put in, so you'd print the input, right? Like, so say, sorry, we do not carry that chocolate. Sorry, we do not carry that.
This is the comparison it's making. So it is looking for exactly those words.
Oh. I don't see the difference between them.
No, it seems like everybody's having different issues with the same project.
Green keywords were present in your program. Red keywords were missing or out of order. Oh, wait. I think I know what it wants. I think it wants to keep going. So instead of just ending there, yeah, I'm not a big fan of these. Finished programs, computer graded programs. I very much prefer to see it, to see what you're doing as well. And I can't really see y'all's code when you write this way. So how can we change this to a loop?
Could be a while add-in is not XXX.
So while add in is not XXX, do all this.
And just ask for the input again at the bottom of the loop.
Yep. Then we'll still need to do that same check. If add in is not equal to XXX, then we'll do these things. That, and that, that, and that, that, that. And we do all of this stuff, so it all needs indented. Then afterwards, do the this again. Was that Rachel that said that? Is that what you were
No, I
thinking?
didn't say anything.
That
Oh.
was me. That was Madeline.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Madeline. Is that what you were thinking of? So everything is still
Yeah.
exactly the same, but it's all put inside of a while loop that's going to keep running until they enter XXX. Okay, yeah, and then looking at this output, it looks like it's a running total, so it gets up to, so we can keep ordering coffee. Let's see what this output looks like. If we run that and say whiskey, then chocolate, then cinnamon. Oh. So cinnamon correctly. That doesn't add up to 548. 2 plus 89 is 289. $1.75 would be 474. Plus 60 cents. Oh, I missed the cream. That adds up correctly. So that might be what they wanted. Whoops, wrong button. Sorry. Right as I was getting ready to click somewhere, the Zoom buttons appeared. I do not like disappearing buttons. Those can be a little tedious at times, huh? Oh, that's better. What's still missing? Oh, that one's good.
I believe the money sign is missing on line 35. Order total is money sign.
No, it liked that one. I guess it ignored all these other ones that it didn't like. So it found them in there. I guess they did format the numbers. I didn't think this book covered that. Did it cover formatting this current formatting numbers? Format. Oops. $sign. I'm a 2. Is that the right one? Green. I have to double check how to format numbers in Python. And this, well, this is probably really good because we use a lot of languages. We'll use different ones and they run together. So sometimes it's hard to remember every single detail. Like I haven't worked in Python. I haven't done any projects in Python in about a year. So it's not really fresh on my mind. So format, and why is that not working? There it goes. So we often have to go look things up. So we want to format the value. Oh yeah, F. I forgot an F. Oh. Is it format F2? Is that right? Great. Nope. Have any of these assignments kind of covered formatting? Do y'all remember seeing that? I didn't think this book did.
I don't remember seeing it.
Two F, not F2. And yeah, if you get a lot of practice in Python, then you don't see it for a year or two, it's hard to remember. There we go. So that formats it as currency. So I'll do that with all those numbers. No, that didn't format it as currency, did it? That would be this line. Let me go back to what I had and see if I can figure out why that's not. Run the checks. Which should be somewhere in the output. So we're going to cream. Cream is, so there's that. then an order total, then the next one. The next one is whiskey. So there's that line.
I think the
Uh,
problem is like
what's that, Santos or
that
Jose?
it's me. Yeah, I think the problem is every time you put an input, it's showing the order total. So that's why the first 4 inputs is not working, because after it shows the like the price is chocolate is this number, and then after that shows order total is.
So maybe do that down here.
Yeah. Like after you quit, or there is no other stuff.
Hey, I can see
Yeah,
a difference.
and yeah,
I can see a difference on cream is 89 cents. If you look on your left on the red, it says cream price is. So are you missing price?
oh, yes, that's probably what it is. Price it with a capital P. Yeah, the computer's doing this, and this is how programming often is. We'll be like really, really close. Oh, yep, that worked. So just that word missing. And programming often goes like that. We'll be really, really close and see all that stuff and kind of have to go back and forth. So that took a little longer than I thought it was going to. But I think I've mentioned I'm not a big fan of those type of assignments. I'd much rather just tell you to create something and then grade the code myself, because
Yeah.
I don't look for an exact sentence when I'm grading it. I think in the future, I'll take these assignments and for submission on them, instead of going through the textbook, I'll have you copy and paste that code into something you can send me. Or, well, not you all, the next students that take this course, if that's still in the course shell. So let me do this. Copy that, and in the chat room, actually, I'll do it this way in the chat room. So new folder, paste that, save that as delete, what is it? I'll just call this mind tap because I forgot what the name of it was. But it'll be in the chat room here in just a sec. There you go. So you should be able to download that file from the chat room there that we kind of worked through there. Did the logic there make sense?
Do you think that you would be able to explain it again?
Okay, one more pass at it.
Yeah, just like a quick summary, because I got lost in the middle and we did different things and then other different things. So just like a quick summary of what occurred.
Okay, so yeah, that lost in the middle is very common for programming. We don't think in the same way that computers process. So usually we'll put together an algorithm, run it, check, see what's wrong, then adjust it. So there's a lot of going back and forth like that. And when a computer is grading it, especially something like this, where I was just missing that one word and didn't notice that, it gets extra hard. So in the future, I'm going to just have people send me these files. But all this stuff was set up, said how many things there were, what the add-ins were, what add-ins were available, the price, and a starting point. So like a blank, just a basic cup of coffee is $2, and then everything else adds into it. So we ask the user what they want, which is sort of priming our loop, getting ready, because our main loop is based on what the user tells us. So we're just going to keep looping until the user enters XXX. So if what the user gave us is not XXX though, I just set up some variable here to hold that number, the one we're looking for, and I started at negative. That way, if we don't find it, I can just check and see if that's a negative number. If it's still smaller than 0, that means we couldn't find it. Then a counter so that we can walk all the way through our array, each time through, checking to see if the item in the array is equal to what the user gave us. And if it is, well, then we'll take whatever index we're currently on and store that in that target, that holding place, the thing we're looking for. And then increment the counter, which you might remember I forgot to do that. Usually I do that first, so that I don't forget, so it doesn't get forgotten. But we'll make sure you don't enter an infinite loop. But after we loop all the way through our array, we'll check to see if we found what the user asked for. If we don't, we just print this out, because target is still negative if we didn't make it something else. If we did find it, we'll print out that item plus price is plus the price of that item. And then we'll take that price and add it to the order total. And then when it comes back around, we'll just ask the user if they want to keep going or if they're finished. And when it gets all the way to the end, then we print out the total. And it's hard to say exactly what the computer would have counted right there or not, because I think it was finding statements and just not seeing them in total. But I'm not a big fan of computer grading stuff anyway, because it has to be exact. And there's lots of ways we can do it. And I guess one of the most important things from working through that is you probably noticed that it did not go together in order. We did not start at the top and kind of work through it, right? I tend to put code together in the order my mind thinks about it in. So I think this part came first, right? And then only later got indented to be a selection structure. And then after that got indented again to be part of a loop. So it didn't necessarily flow together top to bottom. Just as the pieces come together, like put together a piece, check to make sure it works. And when it does, then do the next piece. Because now that I see what works and what the computer's grading, I could probably do that a lot more efficiently. One, two, three. Yeah, that could be done in 7 lines now that we see what works. So that's another thing with programming that we're not really doing in this class, is once we get something working, then we can clean it up. Our term for that's refactoring. Just clean it up, make it nice and shorter. But that could be done in this 7 lines, now that I see what the computer actually wants. But the thing I put in the chat room will count as 100% on that, if anybody wants to copy and paste that in there. Does that make sense? Any questions?
Yes, thank you.
Does that help make loops make a little more sense? Because I know a couple people wanted to look at the idea of loops and see how using them in a situation.
I do have a question.
Yes.
But it doesn't pertain to like not understanding what we just did. I did understand that. Why does the computer have different answers that could be correct? Like, why isn't it just one set way to do it, and that's how you're supposed to do it when there's multiple different ways to do it?
Because computers have to do this right here. All a computer can do is look at that output, this string of output, and run it through an if statement. So it's like, where was one of them? Is this the one that was giving us problems? Oh, this one, where that word price was missing, right? It was looking for cream price is 0.89, which is what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So it was looking for 20 symbols in that order. So what it had to do was run a loop. Can I create a new file here? I'll do it like pseudocode. Whoops. Don't mess up that one. Go over to this new tab. And it has to run through a loop from the beginning to the end of the loop. So maybe we know what character count is. It runs through that output and finds out that there are 500 characters in that output. Does that make sense? So it runs it once and counts how many characters there are. But to find this sentence, that's 20 characters. So we're going to start at the very first one. And while counter is less than the character counter, minus 20, because we know it's going to be 20 sentences long. Every time it's just going to look and see if I'm just going to write string here. Next 20 characters is equal to cream price is $0.89. And then it'll count it correct. Else, counter equals counter plus 1. Does that make sense, Larissa? So it has to look through every single thing there. And we've seen the structure that computers use to make a comparison. So it knows it's looking for 20 characters. And there's so many ways to put that in English, right? Like, there are virtually an infinite number of ways you could write that sentence and I would know what you meant. But we certainly can't put together an infinite number of if, else things, right? We can't check every way that that sentence can be run. So the computer can only look for certain ones. That answer your question, I hope?
Yes, it did.
And yeah, that's, so you can see even an advanced thing like this, where it is grading the programs you write, it's still these things you know. We have some assignments, like this one would come from, printing all the output that we have to look through to see if something's there. Then a loop, well, there's a bunch of stuff there, way more than 20 things, so we have to keep looping until, looking at them 20 at a time until we get all the way through them. And then the selection structure. So even in something that seems like a really advanced program, because this is a program to actually grade other programs, that's pretty advanced. It's still these same structures we've been seeing. So that's the thing with programming. We see these same structures and we can put them together in different orders. That's why it's kind of gone quickly here and why I wanted to take time to Well, one of those notes was about loops, and make sure everybody understood that, because that's an important tool. Because we only have a couple, and there's one more. So why don't we take 10 minutes, and then when we get back, we'll go over this 2-page notes. Does anybody have any other questions about that Python one? Or if you have something that's close to working, if you want to send that to me, probably should have done this earlier in the semester. This is what I'm going to do in future semesters. If you have something close, copy it over to a text file and send it to me, and I will manually grade it. I probably should have done that earlier in the semester, but that'll solve some of those problems where it just doesn't want to put the things in if they all work. But that took well over an hour, so why don't we take a 10-minute break now? That sound good to everybody? And then talk about persistent data, because that's the last important part, right? All that data that we just ran through that program is gone. When the program hits the end, it's done. So if we want that same data to work with again, we have to re-enter it. So after a break, we'll see how to deal with that. So I will see you all in 7:32.